Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Astha Mehrotra, and I would like to welcome you to the My Tech Community Hour webinar series. This weekly series with technical content directed to pre-sales happens every Thursdays at 3 p.m. CT time. Today's topic will be ETERNUS DXAF updates, REST API, and encryption key management. We will just wait another 2 more minutes for all the participants to join. Thank you. Good afternoon once again. We will now start our My Tech Community, our webinar, ETERNUS DXAF updates, REST API, and encryption key management. Our today's hosts are Matthias Banas, who has more than 12 years of IT experience with a focus on consulting, pre- and post-sales in the field of storage, backup, and disaster recovery. Matthias joined Fujitsu in 2019 as a senior technical consultant supporting the White family of ETERNUS storage system. And also we have Lucas Kromick, who is an experienced backup and storage systems engineer. He is focused on pre- and post-sales support for backup solutions and all ETERNUS AFDX related topics. Lucas joined Fujitsu Storage Consulting team in September 2019 as a technical consultant. Now, after the short description about our speakers for today, I would also like to share some useful information for this session. You can place your questions on the chat area on the side panel of the webinar. We would also like to ask for your feedback on the session, so a small survey will come up in the end of the webinar. Sharing your thoughts on the session is the best way we have to listen to your suggestions and to improve the series. Also, in this survey, feel free to suggest any other webinar topics you find relevant. One more thing I would like to tell you, at the end, we will have a poll, so I would request all of you to kindly participate in the same. We will now proceed with Matthias, and in the end of the session, we will open the lines for your questions. Welcome, Matthias.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Ashta, for the introduction. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. So welcome to our webinar on RESTful API and SF key management features implemented in ETERNUS DX and AF systems. Together with my colleague, I would like to present you a general overview of the mentioned features and provide short demonstrations on both topics. And at the end, we'll leave some time for the QA so that everyone. And I'm joined by Łukasz Kromik, with whom I make a team, which can be treated as a backbone for the field engineers in case they need assistance in the projects. We're hiding behind the expert.datamanagement at ts.fujitsu.com mailbox, covering the topics related to ETERNUS DX and AF, ETERNUS AB and HB, and also Cumulo software-defined storage. The main scope of our service is to provide consulting in a form of health checks, performance tweaks, best practices, etc. We also run demos for the partners and customers on the required features, as well as support the pre- and post-sales projects, such as clarifying tender requirements, assisting in designing the solutions, and helping with web architect configurations, and so on and so forth. So basically, if you have any general or specific storage question, feel free to drop us an email, and we'll be glad to help you out. But yeah, let's move forward to the meat of this presentation. What is REST API anyway? As the name suggests, it's an application programming interface using the principles of representational state transfer design. So later on, I'll show you how with REST APIs we can display and change basically the storage device configuration. The architecture here is simple. As an operator, using any REST API compatible IP client, we'll be sending queries written in JSON, which means the JavaScript object notation, and sending them over the management port of ETERNUS using the 4 HTTP methods you see on the screen. So in this case, well, get method will allow us to basically get the information from the storage regarding certain components. Post method will allow us to create new objects on the storage. Patch will allow us to modify the objects, and delete, basically, well, as you probably assume correctly, will enable us to delete certain objects, the selected objects. So how to actually access the ETERNUS APIs? First of all, you need to have the latest firmware version installed on your system. This is V11 load 40 at the moment. So that also means that REST APIs are only available on DXS5 systems and AFS3 systems at this point in time. So no, at this moment at least, no support for S4, S3, and older. What you also need is to basically open the HTTPS communication over port 5665. That also means that you need to have the SSL certificate installed if you don't have it at this point. And finally, you should just enable the RESTful APIs by taking the action in the web GUI. Since REST APIs in ETERNUS were introduced not that long ago, just last quarter of 2020, there are still some limitations and restrictions to what's possible, what you can achieve with it. For example, NAS functions are completely not available. You can still manage some environment when using a unified system, but well, it will not allow to touch the NAS services. Secondly, the advanced copy functions are not supported at the moment, but the development team is working really hard to release this with the next firmware version, and that's expected this year. We're also limited to standard and thin provisioned volumes only, and only FC and iSCSI hosts are supported at this point in time. So yeah, just with this quick introduction, with all of the above said, enough of the slides, and let's hop on to the practical demonstration of the REST API features. Let me switch to a demo system, which I have. I hope you can still see that all, and let's go to the hardware GUI for ETERNUS. Let me show you how to enable the REST APIs first. So I'm going to log into the first ETERNUS system which has not enabled the REST API. So you can see if you go to System tab, and the first thing, the first folder, the first root folder, here on the right hand side, you can enable the RESTful APIs. But as I said, if you don't have the SSL certificate registered, it's not going to allow you. So if you want to do that, just go to Network and set up, create the SSL certificate, then create the key CSR, and finally register the SSL certificate on the machine. I'm not going to do that here. It's not the scope of this presentation, but because I've already prepared an ETERNUS system that allows for this communication. Last but not least, you want to enable the firewall or whitelist the RESTful APIs, and you do that by setting up the firewall, right? You just click that, set, and if everything's good, then you're ready to go. You can see that on the other system. So this is basically a ETERNUS AF250 S3 with the latest firmware installed. And now I can show you the same on the system that is already configured. You don't see the REST API action here, and the network firewall, you've got the RESTful APIs already enabled. So the communication is open. We can play around with it. So how to actually access those APIs? I myself really like this tool. This is a free tool called Insomnia. This is to access the RESTful APIs, or to allow you to send the queries to the system. You can use any other basically RESTful API compatible tool, like for example Postman, or you can even use any system that supports curl commands, such as Linux or Mac OS. Also, other interpreters such as Python will work too. So it's basically up to you what you need, what's available in your environment, and there's a lot to choose from. I found this nice because this Insomnia tool nice because it's quite user friendly and it's looking really nice for a demo. But yeah, okay. So this is the screen that we see. This is so we need to first connect to our storage. In order to do so, we will need to create a new request. Let's just name it demo. And using one of the functions, I mentioned that ETERNUS supports get, post, patch, and delete. We have some other options, but these are not applicable and not needed at this point, right? But what we need to do is log in to the interface with a privileged user. In this case, I will be using root. And as mentioned on the architecture slide, we will be using JSON as our entry language or a scripting language, right? If we create that, we have the main window, which allows us to type in the JSON commands, which allows us to authenticate, and but mainly we need to first locate our storage system. As I mentioned, APIs are using the management port to access the system, the interface. So what we need to do here is, yes, using the full base path and providing either the IP address of the management port, or you can use also the fully qualified domain name if that's your preference. We need to secure the port, and now we need to access the API interface, so /API/v1 at this point, right? This is this will be called the base path that we will be using to basically send all the queries to the interface. Sorry. So after this slash, after the last slash, we will provide a reference to the physical or the logical component we want to address. So we'll use such things as disks, volumes, jobs, sessions, etc. In this case, since we want to log in for the first time, we will have to create a new session. If we now just click send, yeah, we have a status of 401. We're unauthorized. Yeah, we didn't provide any credentials, anything that will allow us to access the interface. So what we need to do is provide a simple JSON query. So open and close the curly brackets and type in the username, which is root, and obviously the password, which is also root in this case for ease of use, right? If we send that query right now, we have a result that we have a new session created with the current ID. We have the token. This is the authorization token that we will need to use for each query that we will issue to the system. So this is really important. We will be going back and forward to copy paste this token to be authorized to issue any other commands, any other queries. Lifetime is limitations due to the security reasons. That means that this authorization token is only valid for 1800 seconds, or in other words 30 minutes, and this can't be extended. So if you run out of 30 minutes time, you have to reopen the session, right, and get a new authorization token. So what can we do now? Since we are authorized to access, we can, for example, check the storage system details. If we send the query like that, again, we can't access. We are unauthorized 401. We will not receive any issues. This query will allow us to see the status of the storage system. So what we need to do is, at least in this tool, it's quite easy, because we just select. Usually it's this authorization, no authentication. So we select the bearer token and just paste the same token that we received when creating the session, when opening the session, when logging in to the interface. With that bearer token, we can just again send the same command, and now we have all the details about the general storage system. We have the name, we have the status that it's normal, we have the serial number, the box ID, the firmware version, and so on. And we can use that later on to create scripts to automate things on the system. So RESTful APIs are basically just another way to use your system, to manipulate it, to create resources or delete, and it's really easy to script in case you have a specific goal to achieve on the system. So as you can see, after the base path, we always provide the component that we want to reach. by the way, those on the left-hand side, those folders, those things, those are all available components that we can reach currently with the RESTful APIs. I prepared that beforehand so that I don't have to redo that on live on demos. But this was empty, so I had to prepare that. And if we go to the components folder, we can, for example, see the status of the front-end enclosure, which is obviously not applicable in here because we are using an AF system with no front-end enclosure. We can see the controller enclosure, which is basically /C. This will be /FE. This is all described in the API guide. So yeah, I know there's a lot. There's even more parameters that you can use with REST APIs, but yeah, they are quite well described in the API guide. So you can easily refer to that. Those are things that I've used earlier, but basically what we can do now, we can see, for example, the CA ports. Obviously, again, I send it for a 1. So I paste the bearer token, and now I have all the info regarding all the CA ports available in the system. That means I've got 8 ports. I've got the port IDs, I've got the port types, I've got the modes, I've got the WWPNs. So, and of course, if I scroll down, I can see all of them. But yeah, what if I have multiple and I'm only looking for specific ports? Let's say I want to filter out only the array ports. So what I do is just place a question mark, and I want to filter by mode, where mode is array. This will limit my results only to the array ports. What else I can do? I can type in the keyword fields and type in, like, again, this one I will use only mode. So this will list all the ports, but only limit the results to the modes. So I see the port ID, I see the mode that the port is currently in. All 8 ports on one page. Moving forward, we have such components drives, obviously. Again, bearer token sent, and this is the current status of all my drives installed in the system. I can see how many drives, the drives ID, whether they are used, unused, or used in a RAID group. I can see the capacity, the drive types, even the model, and etc. etc. So those are all the drives that are currently installed in the system. And again, I can filter them out, but I will show that later on when I modify and use those disks for some jobs. That means we can easily hop to the thin provisioning pool, and again, bearer token. And the post method will allow us to create something on the back. As you can see, so far we've been only using the get. So we were getting information from the system, and now we'll be posting something to the system. We'll be creating an object. In this case, I want to create a new thin provisioning pool. So I use JSON again. Curly brackets, then yeah, I need to provide some kind of a name. I need to provide the level of RAID that I'll be using and which drive to use for that specific RAID group. Of course, there are many more parameters that you can specify. For example, you can specify whether the encryption should be on that pool, and whether there should be compression or dedupe enabled. You can select the everything that basically that's available from the hardware GUI. You can also do it from here. But yeah, let's keep things simple. I'm gonna show you how it works. Let's refresh. Yeah, we're at thin provisioning. We have no pool, it's empty. So if we just issue that command, we'll have the job ID. That means that 202, the query was accepted. And if we go back and refresh, we'll have a new TPP ready for us. And we can manipulate that from either by using the REST APIs, so just go back to the hardware GUI or ETERNUS SF. What we also did say is that we have used those for drives. So if we go into the pool, we'll see that it has also created the RAID 5 TPP RAID group. We still don't have any volumes though, right? But we'll do that in a moment. Other prepared, yeah, we can delete the TPP, but I'll show you that at the end. And we can easily expand the TPP also with a post method. So again, those parameters are all well described in the guide. This is how would you define 4 new drives that should be joined to the TPP that we've just created. If we go back, we've got the TPP, and we've got 2 RAID groups. We just expanded the pool with just one simple command. And here is where we can also see how to use the patch method. As you can see, we're now on patch. Again, we're referring to a TPP path, and we'll be modifying the TPP number 0. How do I know that the TPP has an ID of 0? Yeah, I don't. I can get the info and see what are the TPP pools available for us. Yeah, we've got one thin provisioning pool which has the ID of 0. This is the name, this is the status, this is the capacity, and so on and so forth, the chunk size. This is all what you can see, modify. Okay, so the thin provisioning pool is called right now TPP_RAID 5. Let's change that to TPP_API. And by the way, we can also modify the warning threshold, the attention threshold. As you can see, I'm going here. This is currently 90% of warning and 75% for attention. So bring that down to 85 for warning and 70 for attention. If we just, yeah, again, unauthorized, I forgot about the token. And now, if we go back, yeah, the name changed to TPP API, and the threshold values also changed to what's been issued by the REST APIs. Now we can create a volume, for example. Same thing, sample volume. We will post with name, select the capacity, and there are many more parameters that you can use. In this case, I will be showing up how to create a copy protected volume on that thin provisioning pool. So if I do that and now go to volume, I now have magically the sample volume that we can use. So many more functions to go to. We can expand the volume, again, delete, patch. This is all basically the same. Changing, getting some information. We can get the information on all the volumes, for example, and we'll see that we only have one volume with volume ID 7, which is name, sample vol, etc., etc. So yeah, it's quite easy to see the information from there, and again, you can use that for many different reasons to script your work, to make it easier to just create volumes, create rate groups, delete, manipulate them, create host connections, and also the mapping of the volumes to the hosts. But yeah, it's all the same principles. I just wanted to show you how to do the basic stuff, and then you can play around with that. It's that simple, right? So what I wanted to show you again is the filter function, and so we've got all the drives, but now we can see that some of them are not unused anymore. They are in normal state, right? So some of them are still unused because, well, they are used in reality in a thin provisioning pool. So if I want to just select the drive which status is unused, then I can do that with just a simple command and see what else is left, what's available for me. And I think that would cover the basics of REST APIs. I don't have enough more time to basically do more about that, because we have to go back and head over to Łukasz. This is the last resource. Feel free to download the RESTful APIs. You can find it on the partner portal, or just scanning through that QR code will allow you to download that too. Very easily and go through the different parameters, different settings for what you can achieve with RESTful APIs. So with that said, thank you very much from my side, and I would like to now switch to Łukasz, so he can present his part. Thank you very much for your time.
So I'm transferring the rights, presenter rights, to Lucas.
Yes, please.
Lucas, you are the presenter now, so you can just share your screen now.
Okay, so just tell me, do you see my screen?
We can, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much, Mateusz, for your part, by the way. It was very interesting. Okay, so very quickly, hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Łukasz Kromik, and I'm technical consultant, as you already heard, working in Technical Competence Center and Storage Consulting team. And during our today's meeting, I would like to introduce to you encryption key management software, discuss how it can help in your data protection strategy, explain its licensing models, and at the end, I will show you how it really works on a live demo. So without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, so let's start with answering the question, what is the ETERNUS SF key management software, or in short, ESF-KeyM? ESF-KeyM enable us to safely keep authentication keys used by encryption mechanisms. As you can see in the picture, typical environment, most popular, consists of at least one ESF-KeyM server installed on a supported version of Windows Server or Red Hat Linux. These are two platforms we support. However, it's the smallest supported architecture. Recommended configuration is built with 2 key management servers with replication in between them. In this scenario, primary server is a master and the second one is clone. So if primary server is unavailable, then second one can take over his role. And like you see, we support 2 types of clients, which are VMware vCenter server and its virtual machines located on both standard data stores or vSAN data store. KM work also with ETERNUS AF and DX series with FIPS and SED drives installed. And maybe straight away, let me answer your potential question. ETERNUS AF DX firmware encryption cannot work with external key management system. So to make use of the ESF KM together with ETERNUS storage, you need to have the self-encrypted drives installed. Network traffic between KM and external systems such as vCenter or ETERNUS is encrypted using SSL protocol. So we must have valid certificates on both ends, KM and encryption system. To obtain them, you can use either third-party authority to sign the certificates, or you can generate self-signed certificates from the systems itself. Worth mentioning is also that we support vCenter servers, or in general VMware environments, installed on our primary servers. So you must have Fujitsu hardware as a hypervisor. Okay, so now let's take a look at some of the bullet points regarding ESF KM product. First of all, reduce the risk. Encryption is a kind of a door lock to important and expensive resources, and as you know, each door lock requires a key. It's the simplest way to explain how authentication in encryption mechanisms work. You encrypt the data and you lock it with a special authentication key. In this case, authentication keys, which are required to unlock encrypted resources, are generated, stored, and delivered from the central key management software, which in our scenario is ESF KM. In environments where management software is not deployed, these authentication keys are stored together with encrypted resources. So as you may think, it's not the best nor a recommended way to protect your data. With external key management system, you can reduce the risk of data leakage, especially when attacker has physical access to your systems. Maybe it's not so often, but still it can happen. Or if he has access only to encrypted system, but not to the management software. Second, reduce the costs. With ESF KM, you can reduce the risk because of its automated key generation and rotation functions, so as automated backup features. With these functionalities, you can save time, money on simple and repetitive operations and leave them to key management software. Ensure high availability. Like I already explained, you can create 2-node solutions with replication between the nodes. And if one of the servers fail or there is some kind of disaster or network errors, you can still access your encrypted resources using spare KM server or clone KM server. Comply with security standards. So it's quite hot topic in these days. ETERNUS SFKM enhance the data security and help facilitate compliance management of regulations and standards, such as PCI DSS, which is a payment card industry data security standard used in banking, for example. Of course, the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations, or Sarbanes-Oxley and the HIPAA, which is a Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. These are very popular standards in the USA, for example. KM is using industry standard communication protocol, which is KMIP, the abbreviation of Key Management Interoperability Protocol. So it's using a KMIP to communicate with vCenter or the ETERNUS systems. Okay, so quite quick about the licensing. KM isn't a free of charge product, so it requires additional purchase, and it's licensed in two ways. First is per instance, and the second is capacity licensing. Like shown in this table, per instance licensing is available only for vCenter. It means that one license is needed for one vCenter server instance. If you have more of them in your environment, then you need equivalent number of licenses for each vCenter server. Capacity licensing can be calculated in two ways, per row capacity or per usable capacity. Row capacity is available only for ETERNUS system, and it's calculated basing on the number and size of the self-encrypted drives or FIPS drives. So you just need to take the number of drives and multiply it by its capacity. On the other hand, usable capacity option is available for ETERNUS systems and also vSAN data stores. And here we take into account whole usable capacity of the write group, volumes, or the vSAN data store in VMware environment. So the capacity licensing and the instance licensing are quite easy to understand, and there's really nothing big to explain. Okay, so now we will move to the live demo of ETERNUS KM, but before we do that, let's take a quick look at our demo scheme, our demo environment. We have two KM servers with replication in between, and they are both connected with vCenter server, where we have some virtual machines. Unfortunately, right now I'm unable to showcase the KM integration with ETERNUS systems because our system with FIPS drives is temporarily unavailable. But don't worry, from KM perspective, roles are the same for both vCenter and the ETERNUS. So we will not see any difference from the KM point of view. Okay, so let me just switch my windows. Okay, so hopefully you see my screen now with vCenter server, and I will just show you quite quickly how to add the KM server into ETERNUS. You go to the to vCenter. You go to vCenter tab, configure key providers. You click add standard key provider. Like you see, I already have one, or at least two, honestly. Here, after you specify the name for the key provider, you add the real key providers to it. So it's kind of a category for them, a group. Like you see, I have my KM number 1, and as you see, there is a whole process to add this key management server. After you install it on Windows or Linux, you must establish the trust between both vCenter and KM, or the ETERNUS system and the KM. The workflow is almost identical of these steps. And don't worry, we have manuals for everything. They are really well written, and everything is quite clear how to do it. Like I already mentioned, we support certificates, self-signed certificates, or the certificate signed by third-party authority. So you can choose between both of them. And after you establish the trust on both systems, you can start using the KM. Here you can also see I have a second one. So both of them are connected. Certificates are valid, so everything's good, everything's fine. In this moment, KeyM is the central point of management of the keys, encryption keys. So that's about the vCenter configuration. And now let's jump to the key management server itself. Okay, so here we have a login page. As you can see, it's an OEM product of the IBM Key Lifecycle Manager. We log in with administrator account, SKLM admin. We provide the password for it. And I'm now logging into the master server, to the primary server, which can be also confirmed up here. Sorry for that, it's closed. Yeah, okay. So we can confirm it up here. It's replication server active role master. Here we have some short description, what is on this server, how it's configured, short summary or overview of it. We see which port are used by this server, is TLS configured, is TLS protocol configured, KMIP, which port is used by KMIP, and so on. We see that there is an incremental replication configured. What's the incremental replication? Well, if you, for example, encrypt the new virtual machine, or if you add the ETERNUS system to the KeyM, there are some keys generated for each of the key group. And after such change, when there are new keys on KeyM server, you will see that it requires replication to the clone server, and then KeyM in a specified interval will replicate the changes to the clone. So each one of the KeyM servers are in equivalent state. But we'll get to that in a minute. So like you see, we have a configuration tab where we can configure the KeyM server. We can set up, for example, the syslog. We can grab log files or enable debugging. And basically, we can configure everything like ports used by each protocol for KMIP, for TCP access point to access port, and much more to set it up. And there are some prerequisites which must be made before we integrate the ETERNUS storage, for example, ETERNUS DX or AF. So we must pick, for instance, keep pending client device communication certificates. This option up here, it must be selected. Also in vCenter, also in case of vCenter. So yeah, it's simply a configuration page. Next, we have advanced configuration. Here we have something called device groups, and here are some predefined device groups. As you can see, there is a ETERNUS DX group. So each ETERNUS DX system must be a part of this group to be able to start working with KeyM. Besides of that, we have server certificates. Here is a certificate for our KeyM server. It's needed for the authentication between, to make trust between vCenter or ETERNUS storage system with KeyM. So it's a must-have. Next, we have client device certificates. Like you see, I've imported the vCenter certificate to the KeyM to make a trust between them. And as you can see on the right-hand side, it's trusted. So ETERNUS KeyM can work with vCenter in this case. And now we can move to the administration tab. Here we can see, most importantly, two tabs, because in export and import, you can export the device groups or import new ones. If you had old installation or something like that, you can import all data to the new system. You can import the keys, but let's move to the more important places. First of all, backup and restore. Here you can take the backups by hand. So you can create a backup in any time, create a password, because each backup must be encrypted with the password. So it's creating a backup of the whole configuration files and keys stored in the KM management server. But it's a manual operation up here. We can also restore the data from the backups. So we just need to select the backup and click list restore and enter the password. Next, we have a replication tab. Here, as you can see, I have my certificate for the server. We have encryption passwords, the port via which is the communication handled by both KM servers. Here I specify the DNS name of the second KM server, its port. I can also specify some advanced parameters. This is the default directory for the backups, where they need to be stored. And here we can set up the replication frequency, how often we want to have the changes replicated to the clone. So if we have 24 hours, it means that every 24 hours, if there are any changes, every 24 hours, the data will be replicated, fully replicated to the clone server, to the secondary. And incremental replication frequency is set to 60 seconds. So it means that master server is asking a replication server if the data is consistent. If it is, then there is no need for replication. But if there is some deltas, there is some differences between stored keys between primary and clone, there was some kind of new virtual machine or new ETERNUS system registered to the primary server, to the primary key management server, then primary key management server got the new keys, and he needs to send it out to the clone KM server to make these to make the both servers synchronized. Next, we have a client tab where we can look up at, for example, in this case, vCenter server. We can click on modify, and under, for example, add objects, you can see all of the keys which are stored for this specific client, in our case, vCenter. If you click on the view, you see keys UUIDs. It's not the key itself, I mean, it's not a hash code. You cannot check the hash of this key because it's encrypted, and you can only see the UUID. And using this UUID, you can verify which virtual machine, in our case, each virtual machine, is encrypted using this key. Okay, so maybe to showcase how it's working, I will go back to my vCenter. Here I have some demo virtual machine for the KM. Let's go to the settings, VM options. As you can see, we have 3 disks connected to this virtual machine. In VM options, we select encryption. We change the storage policy to VM encryption policy. We can select all disks. We can select just few of them. We can 1, 2, whatever. Let's leave it like it is right now with all of the keys, with all of the drives to encrypt. Let's select OK. Now we will need to wait a few seconds for the encryption to be completed. And we can do it also from the monitor and tasks. In the meantime, I will also log into our clone KM server. Because I want to show you that this replication is really working. It's not that I'm just talking about this and not showing. I'll prove it to you. Okay, it will take some time up here to encrypt them. And as you already see in the tasks, you can identify using which key the encryption is done. So up here, you can notify the key name, key UID, and later on in a KM server, you will see that this key will show up. So we can go here, modify, add objects, and I don't know if you catch it up before, but there was 12 objects. Right now there's 13 of them. And if you take a look into this list, here we have the confirmation that this key is already here. ADD is at the end. That's correct. It's the same key. And well, you might say it's obvious, but it's obvious because the key management server is it's really his main job to create these keys. This key, this encryption key, is not created by the vCenter or by the ETERNUS DX or AF itself. It's handled only by the external key management server, which in our case is ETERNUS key management server. So it's up here, and as you can see on ETERNUS KM2, it's a clone. We also have 13 objects available, so this is already up here available. So the data was replicated almost instantly within this 60 seconds period. So even if the encryption isn't done yet, the key is already on the KM server. And let's just encrypt one more virtual machine to showcase you that there will be more keys available. Okay, yeah. So as you see, there are 14 objects, so it's exactly the same on both sides, and that's how it works. It's quite simple, very fast to set up and configure and install. So there is no rocket science on the configuration side. That's why I think it's a really great feature, and yeah, that would be it. That concludes my part. So now maybe let's move to the Q&A section, but maybe right before Q&A, Ashta, can you display this poll?
Yeah, sure.
This one question.
Yeah, I'll be just launching the polls now. So everyone, you are requested to please participate in the same.
I don't know if it's me, but Ashta, you're breaking a little bit. Please let us know.
It's already launched, so everybody can see it on their screen.
Yeah, so please just let us know what is your feedback. Is there a need for the key management server in the field? Do you think it's something valuable, or do you see it happening during the tenders or offering phases? We are really interested in your feedback up here.
In front of you, Lucas, you must be able to see the results. So 18% is with yes and 82% is with no.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
are you able to see the results?
Not yet. I can see it.
I can see them on my side if that helps.
Oh, okay, that's good because I don't see it. I don't know why.
No problem at all. I mean, it's so it's 18% for yes, and the most people that are not interested in during the offering.
We move, move towards
On
the.
that. So, if there are, if you don't see any other questions towards me regarding the REST APIs, yeah, I'm good.
So I have assigned one to Matthias and one to Lucas. So I will just read out the questions. Yeah. I see you have a section for FTRP in insomnia, but you said REST API only support.
Oh, Ashta?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, because I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, but you said REST API only supported for standard and thin provisioning. Are AST pools FTRP also supported?
Yes, so I just answered that question. It's not possible. You can only use the get method, so you can only get information.
On encrypted only. Yes, it's licensing the encrypted drives. We don't care about the normal drives which are not encrypted. Must license the encrypted drives only.
Some technical issues on Ashta's, so sorry for that.
Here are some of the network issues. Okay, I have one more question, Lucas, for you. KM licensing, raw usable capacity means capacity on encrypted drives only. Is it right?
Yes, I've answered it already, and the answer is yes. It's capacity licensing is based only on the encrypted drives, not on the normal. So yeah.
Okay, other than these two questions, we haven't got any questions yet. But dear partners and colleagues, if possible, please kindly send out your questions.
So yeah, Ashta, the problem is that you're breaking up really hard right now. So I think it's about time to conclude this session. And
we are
please,
also
for those who
we are also not getting any of the questions, so I think we can finalize the session then. Thank you so much, everyone, for an informative session. Thank you all for attending, and please don't forget to give us your feedback on the survey that will come up right after the webinar. We all hope to see you next week. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.